on Appropriations meeting. As you know, today we are meeting the Department of Transport, who's going to brief us on the second adjustment appropriation bill. I understand that the Honorable Minister Mbalula, Minister of Transport, is on the platform. Minister, good afternoon, and you are very much welcome with your team, DG, and everybody who's on the platform. Thank you for responding positively to the meeting to engage with the Standing Committee on Appropriation. Any apologies?
Yes, Chairperson. We received apologies from Ms. Digale, Ms. Peters, Mr. Shaky Mam, and then Ms. Ntlangwini. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Minister, once more, welcome. There's one funny piece of legislation called Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Matters Act, which is an act which governs us. It's an act which says when we deal with the adjustment appropriations bill, which is the second one this year, we must interact with the departments which are affected positively or negatively by the amendments. So we know that, as we said in the letter that we are having, that we wrote to you inviting you, that would like to interact with you. We did say very clearly what our expectations are. But thank you very much for coming with your team. Minister, we'll give you and your team 45 minutes. We did receive the presentation. You will decide how you juggle around with the team that is accompanying you. But once more, thank you. I won't hear from you until 45 minutes as to how you put your troops. It's in your hands. Minister, thank you so much. Please unmute, Minister. Team DOT, can you help us with the minister? I see that his mic is still muted. See on the platform. DG is somewhere there. Please try him on his phone. Team DOT, I see that the minister is on the platform, but is muted. I don't see him. DG or anybody who comes from Department of Transport, can you help?
Chairperson?
Yes.
My name is Tandim Pondo, the PLO. Yes, he's trying to unmute himself.
Okay,
How are you, Chair?
I'm fine,
and colleagues,
thanks.
yes, the minister is trying to, is trying to unmute himself.
Okay, that's fine.
Chairperson?
If IT, yes. Can you help the minister from your side? Darren?
Chairperson, yes, I'm trying to unmute the minister, but nothing's happening. Nothing's happening.
What do we do? Where are our IT guys? Can they help? Okay, let's just be patient. IT, please come in. Can we request the minister to get out of the platform and come back again? Ms. Pondo? Ask the minister to just leave the platform and then log in again. Darren, you get what I'm trying to do?
Yes, Chair, but
If the minister were to try and just leave the platform and log
and rejoin.
and rejoin, yes. Ms. Pondo, please call the minister on his phone and propose what was suggesting here. That
Yes, Chair. I just spoke to the PA then. Okay. Right.
Minister ubophe ngane saba sathe siyakuvulela haya kungeneki.
Yeah, no, ngivulile Shenge. Sengikhona qabane lami. Ndikhona sihlalo.
No problem. Minister, I don't know whether were you able to hear the introduction or you didn't?
No, I didn't, Chair.
Okay. Let me start. Let me okay. No, firstly, you are welcome. Thank you for coming to the committee, the Standing Committee on Appropriations, to come and interact with us as far as the second adjustment appropriation bill is concerned. I said there is a very long act which governs us and the process of adjustment, called the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Matters Act, briefly known as the Money Bills Act. One of the things that it enjoins us to do is that we should interact with the departments who have been affected by the adjustments. You know the letter that we wrote to you. So that's the purpose of today's meeting. And again, I said, thank you very much for being with us, and then said we'll be giving you and your team 45 minutes to take us through your presentation, and you'll decide how you the formation of your soldiers that you came with. I'll give to you, and then you'll decide who comes in and so on and so forth. I'll only be talking to you after 45 minutes. So we are all yours, and thank you so much. Thank you so much, Minister. Please, you can start.
Thank you, Chair. I will start and then Prasa will follow. Honorable Chairperson, Mr. Sfiso Telezi, the Deputy Minister, Medical Makadzi, Acting Group Chief Executive Officer of PRASA, Ms. Tembeka Mapija. There is very little doubt that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a devastating effect on the economy and the fiscus. The transport sector continues to bear the brunt of its impact due to restrictions on travel. The rail sector has not escaped this devastation, and PRASA has not only been deeply affected due to significant loss of revenue that was already in decline, but has also been ravaged by acts of criminality that have seen public assets vandalized and stolen across the PRASA network. It is also worth noting that the aviation sector has been the most affected, and our own entities seriously affected, as these entities rely mainly on revenue they collect. These entities were not provided for in 2020 special budget and had to cap their spending plans in order to remain on a sound financial footing. The South African Civil Aviation Authority derives its revenue from three main issues, i.e. the passenger safety charge, the fuel levy, and the administration fees through inspection. Since the implementation of the lockdown, the SACA has been unable to generate sufficient revenue, specifically from the passenger safety charge, other than for limited passenger flights for repatriation and evacuation of nationals. The revenue for the first quarter declined by 98%. It was on this basis that SACA requested 195 million, of which 145 million was funded through reprioritization within the department, and 50 million was unforeseen and unavoidable, of which no additional allocation was received. The impact of a COVID-19 pandemic has been more devastating on AXA. Left unattended, the company would have found itself in breach of debt, covenants, and trigger early debt repayments obligations. Whilst projected liquidity challenges cast significant doubt on the company's financial sustainability and its ability to continue operating as a going concern, AXA projected decline in revenue by 87% in 2020-2021 financial year as a consequence of a 91% reduction in air traffic volumes. AXA requested 3.5 billion for operational expenditure and capital expenditure, which sustained the weakened credit metrics profile over the forecast period without creating a new asset that will generate cash to service the debt. No additional allocation was received, and the department undertook an exercise of identifying saving in other areas to fund AXA. The impact of the second adjustment budget on the department significantly impacts on the reduction of compensation of employees, variants within the vote to assist entities that are currently experiencing financial challenges and the unforeseen and unavoidable expenditure. Most of the reduction in respect of variants is from the capital budget of the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, as the agency has been underspending on its capital program. The reduction of 3.4 billion from PRASA was to fund other areas that were not assisted during 2020 special budget and will not adversely impact PRASA's ability to deliver on its mandate. The department revised indicators downwards because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent Adjustment Appropriation Act of 2020 in order to cushion the impact of budget cuts on operations in the public transport sector. Municipalities and cities were advised, where possible, to slow down infrastructure rollout. This meant that targets set for public transport network operations remain unchanged at 369,417 average weekday passenger trips across Johannesburg, Cape Town, George, Nelson Mandela Bay, and Ekurhuleni in 2020 to 2021. Rollovers is 138,163 in terms of Program 1 administration. 3 million was rolled over in support of the immediate response to COVID pandemic. Program 7 public transport, 98,163 million has been rolled over for conditional grant allocation for the public transport network grant to Nelson Mandela Bay. These funds were initially withheld as the municipality was in contravention of Section 216 of the Constitution that requires transparency around general accounting principles and financial reporting. 37 million rand was rolled over for immediate response to the COVID pandemic in the public transport program. Unforeseen and unavoidable expenditure is 630 million. Program 4 road transport, an additional 630 million has been allocated as a conditional grant allocation to provincial governments in the provincial roads maintenance grant. This is part of the presidential employment initiative. This addition will see 50,000 jobs created through the Sihamba Sonke program. Baseline reduction of compensation of employees, a total of 127,981 million was reduced from compensation of employees within the department and its public entities. The department's compensation baseline was reduced across departmental programs by 34,570 million and 93411 million from our public entities. The impact on the entities was as follows. Passenger rail of South Africa, 81.256 million rand. Railway safety regulator, 772 million. Road traffic infringement agency, 4 million. Road traffic management corporation, 2.180 million. And South African National Roads Agency Limited, 9.199 million. Funds shifted between votes, 275 million was transferred to the Department of Public Enterprises for the implementation of the South African Airways Business Rescue Plan in terms of Section 30, 2E of the Public Finance Management Act of 1999. Veriments, a number of our entities were not provided for during the 2020 special budget. As a consequence, these entities received allocation from the reprioritization of the department's budget and veriments across its programs. 2.3 billion allocated to the Airports Company of South Africa, 30 million allocated to the Road Traffic Management Corporation, 155.4 million allocated to the South African Civil Aviation Authority. An amount of 900 million was moved from PRASA's capital budget to fund operations for short-term intervention to secure the agency's infrastructure. We have recently appointed a new board of control for PRASA to ensure stability at leadership level. I have no doubt that the caliber of the board we have appointed will rise to the occasion and tackle the challenges PRASA faces with the agency and single-minded commitment. We remain firmly on a path towards building a passenger rail agency that has the requisite capacity and leadership to deliver on its mandate. We are working with the infrastructure upgrades and modernization, amongst others, of the Central Line in Cape Town and Mabopane Corridor in Tshwane. In recent months, we unveiled a security plan to tackle sabotage at PRASA infrastructure. Our rail system continues to be a target of theft and vandalism. Improving operational performance includes the recovery of commuter service, recovery, and the acceleration of the modernization program. In building on the work done by the previous accounting authorities since the dissolution of the last board, we have concluded a shareholder compact with the new board. This compact emphasizes pandemic on the department and its entities. PRASA is on a sustained path to recovery and will continue to make good progress despite the disruptive nature of the COVID-19 pandemic and the criminality that continues to devastate our rail infrastructure. I thank you, Chair.
Minister, remember I said I'll only interact with your team after 45 minutes, so please deploy your soldiers as you wish.
Prasa?
Hello. Honorable Chair, Mr. Buthelezi and the Minister, Deputy Minister, the DG, and all the honorable members of the committee. With the time allocated that the Chair has spoken about, I basically will prefer that we go straight into the presentation by the acting Group CEO on the implication of the obviously adjustment budget. Standeka would then take us through that where appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the chairperson of the committee and the Honorable Minister. Can I request whoever is driving to flight the presentation? I'm unable to.
You can see it from our side.
You can see the presentation.
Yes.
The PRASA presentation, Chair, that's what we would like to flight.
To see what we have now, is this what you, this is the minister's presentation?
Yes, that's.
Yes. Darren, can you get the PRASA presentation to the screen?
Or the host to allow us to share the screen, Chair.
Chairperson, this is the only presentation that I received. I think it's going to work better if I make Ms. Mabija the host, co-host.
Yeah, please make whatever arrangements as long as we see these things from our side.
Okay, Chair.
No, sorry, Chair.
Okay.
I'm sorry
Thank you,
about
Chair.
that. Alien was supposed to come in
Thank
after me. Alien in?
Thank you,
Yes, Minister.
Yes, round is attended.
I will only take members to few slides, like on slide number 10, where there are the details of our adjusted budget. Because in the per program and per economic classification, they are reflecting because they are across programs. I would prefer that we go to this slide just to explain that. As Minister have already explained that we have received the 630 million for the PRMG, for the 50,000 job creation through Sahamba Songa program. We also received the 98 million through the rollover process, also for the Nelson Mandela Bay. So, and then there is also announcement in the budget speech from the compensation of employee, which is 127 million, 0.9 for across departments and public entities. I would just like to correct from the briefing notes where the minister was reading that what was reduced from the RSR is 772,000, and then the other entities around 400,000. It's not the 772 million, it's an error there. And then again, the shifting between the votes, which need to be highlighted, is the SAA 781 million, which was mainly reduced from SANRAL, RTMC, and the Public Transport Network grant, as well as PRASA. That's where we have reduced those entities for the bailout of SAA. So in nutshell, the total for the department adjustment is 41 million, because it's the 630 edition against the 681 million of the shifting within the money that was being moved from the department. And I would also like to take members also to slide number 11, that within the department, the major area that we need to highlight is already been highlighted by the minister, was the 900 million, within PRASA from CAPEX of PRASA capital program to operations, mainly for the security for the entities infrastructure to avoid the further vandalization. And there's also an amount that has been moved to AXA. Since AXA requested the guarantee was not approved. They also requested the additional budget through unforeseen and unavoidable. They also didn't receive any allocation. Hence, the department had to consult and look at the PRASA spending and take into account that PRASA has been underspending for the previous financial years, and they are still sitting with some CAPEX money unspent there. It was prudent for the department also to recommend with National Treasury to move some money from PRASA CAPEX instead of keeping on transferring it to PRASA while it's not being spent there. But also we have consulted with PRASA in that area, looking at that what will be the impact from shifting that capital from PRASA. And PRASA indicated that from their rolling stock, there won't be an impact from that move of funds from PRASA to AXA, because they still have money available that is still unspent on PRASA rolling stock, provided that coming financial years, the department does not also reduce PRASA budget in the next MTF, so that PRASA can be able to honor its contractual obligation. So there's also, again, where we have reduced under signaling. There are 2 projects under signaling under PRASA which are active and have commitments, but they still underspend on signaling from the previous financial year as CAPEX allocation. So they will be able to honor their obligation in the current financial year. They are also appealing that for the next MTF allocation, the department must not consider further reducing the signaling budget as well. And other areas is the refurbishment of the metro rail coaches, also where we have reduced other budget. Also, they are indicating that there won't be an impact in that area. We will be working with PRASA so that whatever changes that will happen for the MTF budget must not affect their contractual obligation or any new service delivery priorities that are in that space. They also provided progress made on their major program like depot modernization program. Also in that space, those projects are in the tendering process. Taking into account the year is almost in November, so commitment will happen maybe towards the end of the financial year. In that space also, there won't be an impact in the current financial for the reduction of the 2.3 billion that has been moved to AXA, our airport company of South Africa. The department is also further engaging the National Treasury, further engagement on the non-approval of the guarantee for AXA, so that they can, because for AXA to go to the market require a guarantee so that they can be able to raise money and be able to sustain themselves. It's challenging for ABSA to be sustainable currently due to COVID, because their revenue are also depending on some airlines. And if those airlines are not doing well, it will be a challenge for AXA to recover quickly. But they indicated that the request of 3.4 billion that they requested through the unforeseen and unavoidable was going to assist them in terms of the issuing of preference shares, so that they can see how far it can take an entity. But they are projecting, if there's no other COVID that will happen next, if there's no other pandemic or severe pandemic, the entity might be sustainable within the 2 years, since it's depending on other airlines in terms of their revenue. So I will end there. That is the summary of our presentation from the department. Thank you, Chair, and the Minister.
Chair, that is our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Then PRASA is coming in. Am I correct?
No.
So that's the end. Okay.
That's the end, Chair. Yes, thank you. If there are questions, PRASA is here. They will field some of the questions that may arise from members. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, ma'am, for the presentation. Perhaps before we proceed, Let me take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Ramatlakane and as the chairperson of the PRASA board and the new board, and wish you well in the challenges that you must deal with at PRASA. You know the importance of that organization, especially to the poorest of the poor of our country. Let me also welcome Deputy Minister Makati. Yeah, welcome, Honorable Deputy Minister. Thank you again for being with us. Welcome, and the whole PRASA management that is here, Acting Group CEO, Ms. Mabija. Good luck again with the responsibility that you have been given by the board and the Honorable Minister. Honorable members, it's your turn. You have the presentation in front of you. You know how we do it. Let's see who wants to interact with the presentation. Let me have your names. I'm listening, honorable members. Or the presentation was so good, you don't want to ask any question or even to interact with it.
Chairperson Dennis Joseph.
Honorable Joseph. Members. Looks like Honorable Kaiso.
Matafa.
Honorable Matafa. Okay, let's start. I know that some other members are struggling with their connectivity today. I don't know why, but they will come in and they will indicate once they have rejoined again. Honorable Joseph, let's take all your questions.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to the Minister and the team, and for the presentation. And I also would like to congratulate Mr. Ramatlakane on that new challenge, and I'm glad to also to hear that old experience is back also on the boards. I'm sure it will assist moving the department forward and the state-owned entities forward. Chairperson, just a question. A question of security was raised. I just wanted to ask what the budget is for the increase in security, and someone missed that. If their budget is increased or decreased, but what is the situation, the financial situation, to get security back on par and to protect the infrastructure of the passenger rail system? My second question would be, given we're going into a festive season and more people want to travel, what is the, I don't know if they call it rolling stock or the trains, the capacity of increase in the next 3 months, December, January, February, summer months? What is this capacity? Because that is important to bring back the stronger image and the recovery plan that was raised. So in this department role as well, so that the economy can get moving upwards and growing again. And then the last question I would like to ask Chairperson, I didn't get anything on, or I missed something on the Nelson Mandela Bay transport network. Just wanted to know what is happening there. What is the update of information of the relationship between National Treasury, the department, and Nelson Mandela Bay Metro? Are there any challenges, and what is the plan to move forward there? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Joseph. Honorable Kaiso.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, and the presentation by the Minister and his team. My notes were so haphazard. Let me start here, Chair. Let me start here with a question. Pardon me. I just want to understand what is the preparations or the take of the ministry around with regard to economic recovery plan? What would be the intake of the department with regard to that, or how are they preparing? How is the department preparing to come in and as far as local procurement, employment? Yes, there is an indication somewhere around the employment, but generally, what is going to be the intake of the department with regard to that, the economic recovery plan, especially with the issue of local procurement? Secondly, is the issue of security. You see, there was a presentation during or before the debate on the second amendment bill on division of revenue. So we were given a presentation by the research council there. The institution told us about the issue of security at PRASA, that it is an institution which could assist the government or PRASA with the security, but then we were made aware that the department was not cooperative with regard to that matter, and yet we see the whole lot of damage has been going on and on and on. We just want to understand, why didn't the department collaborate with the Institute of Research Council to deal with the issue of security? Because for one, it was very much problematic to understand how could the department not cooperate with the institute, which says it can deal decisively with the issue of security and then put an end to that situation through its research work, and they can assist a lot with regard. So I just want to understand, because there's a lot of implication of damage and cost repairs continuously, which does not take the department anywhere. Whereas we have such a beautiful institution which could assist, intervene for security purposes in that regard. I just want to understand why the department did not want to, or does not want to cooperate with the Institute of Research Council to deal with the security. So, Chair, I don't know whether can we also get the clarity as to what was the view or the posture of the department with regard to budget cut, their budget cut? Did they make deliberate concessions, or how did they go about? Are there any areas which they felt that no, it's too much, and etc.? And what was their alternative if they said it was too much? What could be done so that we were able to assist there and there? Thank you very much. Let me pause there, Chair.
Honorable Matafa. Thank you, Honorable Kaiser.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me start by welcoming the presentation and sending my greetings to the Minister, the DM, DG, and the team. Maybe, Chair, let me also add on to the issue of the security aspect, but from a different angle. We know that the Minister has made quite a lot of public pronouncements to say that he is resolving the issue of the security. My question, Chair, would be that in the meantime, what happens to ensure that the damage does not reach proportions that will be very difficult for us to recover from? I'm speaking on this with a understanding that the Minister touched on the damage that is happening in Mabopane and Cape Town railway lines. Now, the problem there, Chair, and it's linked to the issue of the 3.2 billion that is being shifted from capital projects. My question would be, how will this 3 billion affect these particular lines? Because some of the assets that are being damaged once the repair is done to the areas identified to be repaired, the damaged ones must be replaced as well. So I'm interested to know if whether would they be classified under the capital projects or will they be classified under the maintenance? And if they are under capital project, how does the 3.2 billion affect this particular repair lines going forward? The second one, Chair, it's also on the issue of assets that are no longer in the use of the department, like the Benmore station, which was vandalized. There was a report to say that the station has not been used for some time and it was decommissioned. Now, I'm just checking if whether the department has a scrapping policy of assets that it does not use anymore. And that question, Chair, is motivated by the fact that if an asset is located within communities and is decommissioned, but is not secured, it might be vandalized and it can be used as a hub by criminals. So my interest is to find out if whether is there a plan to further use of these particular assets, and they can be turned into monuments, museums, and so forth, which I think that can assist in deterring crime as well as vandalism to these particular assets. Chair, having spoken to that, we also note that there is a persistent reduction of budget on the compensation of employees. Can the department just take us through in terms of how these cuts will continue to affect its capacity to deliver on its mandate? One of the mandates, Chair, would be on the issue of the taxi recapitalization, where taxi operate licenses are some of those mandates that the department must be able to expedite. And over again, for someone like me who comes from Pretoria, there's always a march by taxi operators to say that the issuance of licenses sometimes take too long. So I'm just interested to know how would this compensation of employees reductions assist or impact on the capacity of the departments to deliver on its mandate. Chair, on the issue of the 681 million that is invested in the SAA rescue plan, maybe just a general question. Can the minister and the DM or the DG share a view in terms of the amount that has been used compared to the work that has been done? Is there value for money in terms of the rescue plan implementation in comparison to the amount that has already been invested? And Chair, maybe just to know, in terms of the National Treasury, the determination in terms of the quantum that has been allocated to the business rescue plan, has this been discussed with the department to explain what measures or what formula was used to reach this particular amount, and were the impact on service delivery considered in terms of this particular amount? Chair, the last one is on the 3.5 billion that PRASA will lose. Now here, Chair, I just want to understand, how will this impact on those areas where the mandate of PRASA interlaps with the mandate of Transnet? Because we once had a discussion whereby PRASA would say, we can only work until here, and this particular area is covered by Transnet, and therefore there must be some sort of a discussion or a negotiation in terms of how then do we ensure that operations still continue and the monies that will be invested. Is there any impact of this 3.5 billion reduction as far as that particular mandate, which interlaps the mandate of Transnet, is concerned? I'll pause here, Chair, for now. Thank you for the opportunity to engage. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Matafa. Any other honorable member who would like to have a bite before I come in?
Chairperson?
Yes, Honorable Joseph, please.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to add to the last member's the last question the member asked about the downwards adjustment that the minister raised, the 3.5 billion. I actually want to just add to the question: what projects will be affected now that there's a downward adjustment on that 3.5 billion? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Joseph. Any other thing from you, Honorable Kaiso?
No, I'm fine, Chair. I'm fine so far.
Okay, that's fine. Again, we appreciate the presentation by the minister and the department.
Chairperson.
Kade ngibuza ukuthi khona nokhona. So please,
No, I'm in, Chairperson, but I am deliberately listening. I'm covered by the questions.
okay.
Perhaps after the response by the minister, I will come in.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks. My first question, it talks to the vandalization which has taken place at Prasa. I just wanted to check, do we know the total cost of this vandalization in terms of rands and cents? How much has it cost us? I'm looking at the balance sheet impact. That's one that goes to that's Prasa. And associated with that, how has that affected your insurance premiums? Has the insurance paid for these assets? Please talk to the insurance implications and even talk to the cost implications as far as insurance is concerned when it comes to the vandalization of Prasa assets. CAPEX at Prasa has been a perennial problem child. Year in, year out, we deal with this thing that CAPEX at Prasa is being hugely underspent. In fact, Minister, it's the CAPEX that you allocate to Prasa ends up, according to the last presentation that we're given. As you know, that Prasa has always had had operational operational finance problems, and this has come out to be a very clever way of dealing with that, of dealing with OPEX, where money goes to the bank, and that's CAPEX, which is supposed to go to capital expenditure, but you then find that the one benefit that Prasa gets is to get OPEX from it. It may work for Prasa, but it's not working for government in general, because it's an expensive way of getting money. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll remember that the money that we have got a big deficit as a country, and we go out and borrow the money at a very high cost to the taxpayers. So if that money is not used for what it's supposed to, and then it end up being in the bank, and then what you do with that, then you get your OPEX from it. When you compare the interest at which you are borrowing as a country and the interest that you are getting from the banks, it's a very expensive way of doing it. So the question is, perhaps having said that, is what are your projections? How are you going to spend on this CAPEX? It has been a problematic child, perennial underspending on this, whereas there's so much demand of CAPEX, capital expenditure. Royal Minister, there was a talk about a relationship between the Development Bank of Southern Africa and Prasa, where we heard that DPSA was going to be an implementing agent of some sort for Prasa. Please, can we be taken into confidence what is happening on that? But as you answer that, there are people at Prasa that year in and year out, we have got budgets which are brought to us about men and women who are there. So we don't understand why a company like Prasa will go out and find an agent to spend its CAPEX. And by the way, I can tell you from where I am that that's not a free of charge service. The money that is supposed to go to CAPEX ends up being used partly as some management fees of some sort. I think we need to decide. It's either we use DPSA to spend the money. If Prasa can't spend it, then let's say DPSA is our agent, so we can take money directly from us to it. It does not need to go through PRASA. And you find that it's being chopped along the route before it goes to the ultimate beneficiaries. So I would like to know what's happening with that. I'm sure you hear upfront the concern that the committee has about that. Honorable Price touched on this one. The cuts that we are talking about are just not sustainable. Where you rob Peter to pay Paul. It's because of perhaps the situation we're in now, but economically speaking, it's not sustainable. That's why on the 15th of October, the president launched the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, because that's where the panacea of our problems are on those plans. So, amongst other things, is to buy local. Which would just like to know from the minister and that the department and its agencies, what is it that we are putting in place to make sure that we buy local, specifically, but broadly speaking, and what is the department and its agencies, what are they doing to ensure that this ERRP becomes a reality? Minister, I also recognize from where I'm seated that it's a question that we didn't give you, but it's a bad course, because we would like you and your department and your agencies to sit down and say, here's the economic recovery, reconstruction and recovery plan. How do we impact it? What is our contribution towards its realization and its actualization? Because we want to move away from this thing where certain departments which are sort of given a responsibility of economic growth, and perhaps the rest of us are beneficiaries of that. From where we are seated, we think all of us must put shoulder to the wheel. So it's not something that you can just come up with, but it's bad cost, and we'll invite you back to say we would like to see a full-blown presentation coming from the Department of Transport on behalf of itself and its agencies to say that's how we're going to impact on the ERRP as presented by the President on the 15th of October to the joint sitting of Parliament. As you would see, Minister, all the departments are talking about the cuts and recapitalization of SAA, but SAA can't operate outside Department of Transport as a regulator. One of the concerns that have been raised very sharply is the open skies policy, which comes mainly from the regulator, which is the Department of Transport. I don't know whether you would like to please comment on that, and perhaps the coordination and the working together with with Department of Public Enterprises as we try to save the South African Airways. December and the festive season is a very busy period, especially for the migrant workers. And Shosholoza Mail, it's one transport that our people, as they go back to the hinterland of our country, they depend on. What is the preparedness of Shosholoza Mail to deal with this challenge? Here is another question. The rolling stock program, and this one again, it's what I would say it's bad course, because we would like to PRASA, obviously led by the minister, to come back on brief us on this one. It's one of the biggest intervention by government, the renewal of the rolling stock of PRASA. There were agreements that were entered into. There were deliverables which were supposed to come from the Gibela Consortium. So we'd like to be briefed and there's going to be quite an exercise, Honourable Minister, to look at the commitments that Gibela made when they got this tender, which was also the reason why they got the tender, and vis-a-vis what they have delivered to PRASA. This committee would like to be appraised on the thing, because there were good reasons. We know that there is a Donatin factory in Ekurhuleni, which is a welcome thing where we can produce our own trains. But there were many other deliverables, and would like to be appraised about the delivery against that plan and those agreements that were entered to between PRASA and the Gibela Consortium. You know, there was BE there and so on and so forth. We'll also want to see whether the commitments which were made as far as BE is concerned, empowerment is concerned, Gibela Consortium has been able to live up to those commitments, and which were the reasons why, in the first place, they were given the they were given. Why is Zola Mlenzana on please mute Zola. So as I said, Minister, I think and Chairperson and the board, we think it's bad course, because this is an exercise on its own, and it's not something that you can just on top of your heads deal with it, especially with the new board, the new acting Group CEO. But definitely early next year we'll be calling back on this one to be appraised, where you have these are the commitments, these are the deliverables, so that we can see what progress we are making. The last audit outcome of PRASA was something that we should all be ashamed of, that there was a disclaimer. So that is, AG couldn't make an opinion. So if the AG can't make an opinion, those of us who sit here and appropriate man, we've got nothing to base our decisions on. It's a very, very, very serious financial irregularity, to say the least about it. Would like to know what is the position at the end of the financial year of 2020. Are we improving? That's again very, very high level. I think that's enough from my side for now, and I would invite the minister, his team, PRASA, to deal with the questions as posed by the honorable members. Minister, we are all yours. Again, you'll direct your team as you wish.
Thank you, Chairperson. Some of the questions are for PRASA team. The chair and the acting GCO will respond. And then the department, Dalian, will respond. If DM has got comments to make on some of the questions that have been raised, she can comment, and then I will wrap up in that order via you, Chairperson. Colleagues, can we respond in that order? Dalian, PRASA.
Thank you, Minister. I will respond on the question of the public transport network grant for the Nelson Mandela Bay. It was not, this money was not transferred to Nelson Mandela Bay in the previous financial year, since the municipality was under administration in terms of the section 216 of the Constitution, but is now lifted. Hence, the rollover amount has been approved, and the department is currently in the process of processing that transfer payment to the Nelson Mandela Bay. But the main reason was the issue of the being in under administration. And then on the economic recovery plan, the chairperson have already highlighted that the department should come to present to the committee in relation to how the department does respond to the economic recovery. That I will leave that one for that day. And then how did the department go through the process in terms of the prioritization of the budget? if the member could remember, the money that is going to SACA currently was previously allocated to CBRTA and RTIA, because the department keeps constantly on engaging those departments in terms of their revenue collection based on the levels as government move to different levels. Those entities initially around April and May, they were indicating under collection to those amounts. Hence, we have revised those amounts after we have engaged with them. So quarterly and monthly, we are engaging with those entities. So we have reduced cross-border and RTIA. They were initially allocated money, but since SACA financial position, financial performance has not changed, hence the money from cross-border and RTIA has been directed to SACA, the 155 million. Initially, they requested 195 million, of which the portion, the 40 or 50 million was not allocated through unforeseen and unavoidable. But we time and again engage our entity and analyzing their financial sustainability with relation to the COVID impact. And then how does the reduction will be affecting the project? I've already highlighted, but Prasa will add on how this reduction is going to affect the project. In the department, there was no reduction apart from the entities. We also engaged with Sanral for the 681 million on how is it going to impact on their budget and where to reduce the budget for Sanral, because there are line items under those entities. So we engaged with them. They were the one indicating where to reduce the amount for the bailout of SAA. And also in relation to the public transport network, we also reduced in that area. Also in that area, as we have highlighted and the minister have highlighted earlier on, that municipalities were also cautioned to also not to, in terms of to scale down on other projects that are not service delivery driven. So there is no much impact. And Prasa, the focus was mainly on the areas where they are underspending on CAPEX, and we engage with Prasa because there's a capital program committee within the department where Prasa report on their capital programs, on how far are they in that space. Hence, the department was able to relook at that is the area where they can reduce to bail out AXA. And then on the scrapping policy, I think this question referred to Prasa in terms of their asset. The department went on the scrapping policy. Yes, we do scrap, but it's mainly laptops. The department does not have the asset per se as compared to AXA. Prasa will respond to that question. And then how will this continue to affect the mandate of the department? I've already explained on that one, on the impact in terms of the consultation with entities and province and municipalities. Before we can reduce, we look at their project and their spending patterns because they report to the department. And the money for the 2.3 billion, it was transferred to public. This money for the 681 million for SAA is the movement across the votes. It moved to the public enterprise. So the department in that area, the public enterprise, maybe they are not in this meeting, but because the money is not yet appropriated by the president, the money will be transferred to those entities once it's been appropriated. And then the project that will be this one is still reflecting. And then how much is the cost of the total vandalization? Prasa is having the response on that. And the rolling stock, Prasa will respond on that as well. I thank you, Chair. I hope I've covered all. And then on the compensation of employee, the effect, the reduction in this year is basically on the increase, the salary increase for the employee. So since salary increase have not been effected in the public sector, so mainly the reduction there in the department is from there. But should the issue of the salary increase go other way around, where maybe the department will be forced to increase, because the budget that we are currently sitting with is the one for the filling of the positions. If that decision will be taken where salary increases to be implemented, then it will affect the department in terms of the filling of posts. But currently, the money that was reduced was mainly for the salary increase. Hence, the public sector at large, the government is trying to manage the wage bill of the public sector. So I will end there, Chair, and the Minister and Deputy Minister.
Dalian,
Chair.
Dalian, do you want to talk about your interaction as the department with the public enterprises as far as the open sky policy is concerned and the way it affects SAA?
No.
Okay. You are delegating upwards to the deputy minister, I suppose, when it comes to that one. Eh?
Yes.
Okay. Chairperson Ramatakan and your team, I'm sure it's the minister said to please come in after.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and the members of the committee and all the esteemed guests over and the DG. I will start by responding, and the acting group CEO will fill in the detail of my response. Just a quick one on the impact of this vandalization of the assets. We have asked as the board on last week Saturday that the officials should with speed compile all of the damage, because at this stage we don't know yet whether the insurance that PRASA has is going to be able to pay the cost of it. So we have asked that with speed of the calculation and collection of all the damage with a degree of estimates that must be submitted to the insurance company that is at the moment handling PRASA's accident or in fact claims. The second part of that question, Chair, is that the cost analysis of the damage. So far on Saturday, when we're speaking about it, collection of the damage that will inform the degree of the cost. That also is going to be done in due course, given the collection that is now being made by the officials. Of course, that will end up with the insurance company. Only then I think the actual cost will be known. But we can say, having done some station visit, the damage is huge. And that being huge is going to cost a bit, the arm and a leg in terms of the replacement value. So of course the calculation of that and quantum of it will be obviously done in time to come. The other question, Chair, that you mentioned from the Chair is the delivery of PRASA basically giving over its responsibility to DBSA as an implementing agency. We are, as a board, we are just over a month in place. We haven't had that issue on our table yet. And if there were going to be that decision, obviously the board will have to be involved in that because of the implication of it, because it is going to mean a delivery mechanism or model is going to be a cost to it. So we will have to be the one that pronounce on that particular. Maybe they were part of the whole lot of discussion with frustration of lack of maybe capacity with PRASA to implement with speed. And that issue is what we are seized with as a board currently in terms of making sure that we fill the vacant posts, that we're able to stabilize that whole section that deals with the administration, policy, and implementation. So in answering that question, that at the moment, that issue is not yet on the board's table of that kind of mechanism. But of course, I'm subject to correction if that decision was already taken before. But it will be part of the decision that the board will rectify in time to come once the inventory of decisions or has been done for the board to consider. On the other part I'll leave the other part of sustainability because that's part of the economy, part of the more preparation for further discussion. On the main line, I could say that the minister will speak to that, but I think there is a program to revive the main line, and I think the minister would be launching that on the 27th, the first one that is going to be launched, and then thereafter on the 4th, there will be follow-up on the main line, launching, gradually opening those corridors, given the implication of what we had before, including the COVID-19. On the Gibela question, commitment to PRASA, we are arranging a roundtable with the Gibela, with the board, together for us to be able to retrace what has been done and what still has to be done in terms of that agreement. Bearing in mind that some of the challenges that may have caused Gibela under delivery, or particularly on the manufacturing side of the 600 trains agreement, has been the inability or slowness of PRASA side to develop the depots for the safekeeping of those new trains that is going to be developed. We have said as a board last week or 2 weeks ago that this long discussion about the creation of the depot must now come to an end. The long lead period must come to an end, that the depot should be at least done in 6 months. That's what we said, so that Gibela on one hand is able to comply with the decision of producing a delivery of trains at the speed, but they have been slowed down as we have been informed because of that particular fact. Chair, the last part of the point, the sole part, is the disclaimer. It's a bad thing for the PRASA to have a disclaimer, because it sent a particular message, which is a negative message. However, the new board is seized with the matter that going forward, we must see a different picture in PRASA. And I think all the staff members, senior management of PRASA, there's been a recommitment to have a new start, as we met with them last week, Saturday, during the induction. So that's basically the summary I can give you, Chair. We could well be that after this meeting, we could come back at your convenience to give you feedback in terms of the concerns that you have around what has been delivered based on the agreement, given that you are the one that at the end passes the money that is should come. So we would give that commitment to get back to you later once we have completed all that. And then Thandeka could then add whatever the details where there's need for details. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, I think in the main you have covered, Chairperson of the board, I think in the main you have covered all the critical issues. I will just cover the issue of the question that was asked by the Honorable Joseph, in terms of the question, was the funding for security at PRASA increased or decreased? And I think according to Ms. Dalian's presentation, there was an allocation of 900 million to PRASA to enhance its security program. There was also a question by the Honorable Kaiso about the Institute of Research Council, that as PRASA, we have not taken up their offer to assist us. Chair, we will look into that to ensure that we take that opportunity for assistance by the Institute. We are also currently getting assistance from the CSIR that is assisting us with the modeling of the security numbers on the ground. The question asked by Honorable Matafa, if PRASA has an asset disposal policy, I confirm, Chair, that we do have an asset disposal policy. We also do have an asset disposal committee and we are in the process of asset verification on the ground for scrapping of the assets that are no longer needed by PRASA. Thank you, Chair.
Comrade Minister.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. To start with DBSA, when we arrived here a year ago, the old board made this request and it was not processed because you know that the PRASA management was totally depleted in terms of capacity. We have worked very hard over the past year to fill all the vacancies at PRASA, and the new board will take over from there and rectify going forward. The inability of PRASA to spend on its capex has brought accumulation of resources and at the same time, from time to time, being redirected elsewhere to intervene with regard to the challenges the country is facing. So with the capacity that we have built, we're confident that we should be able, the new board and the new management, to implement the capex. So there's no need to transfer money to DPSA any longer. So that falls off in terms of our plans or what the previous board had actually requested. So we've been focused on building this capacity. Chair, the question of the disclaimer is a reflection of the past, but the future is looking bright. It's not a reflection of 2020, 2021 in terms of the work covered at PRASA. It is a reflection of the past, and the systems will be tightened up from a point of view of governance. I've just signed a compact agreement with the board in the past week in terms of where the weaknesses are and what they need to focus on. And it doesn't mean that as much as we've been interrupted by the pandemic, and as well as the courts acting against our decision to appoint the administrator at PRASA, but the firm, solid base have been solidified at PRASA, and we are confident that should the board build on that, which I've seen that is a focused board, it should be able to address a whole lot of things that we're grappling with. And the next financial year and the AG's report will be a drastic departure from the current state. But nonetheless, that depends on the performance of the board and the management at PRASA. Our plans on infrastructure projects, which include manufacturing of the rolling stock by Gibela. South Africa has been earmarked, as you know, by AU to manufacture rail rolling stock. And the department and PRASA and Transnet are looking on the concept document in that regard to consolidate this particular approach. And we're working in the IMC under the AU Infrastructure Committee chaired by the Minister in the Presidency to consolidate that position. Other projects include building of rural roads and strategic infrastructure projects by SANRAL around a number of corridors. The insourcing of security is happening, and the commissioning of the building of infrastructure and revitalizing and refurbishing the Mabopane and Central Line. That work is continuing. Not only that, Chair, almost the entire infrastructure is collapsed and vandalized. And the board and the new management need to focus on that. And from our mandate that we have signed with them, this clearly next year and going forward is going to be a revolution. Some of the things are achievable in the immediate between now and December. Is almost end of the year, and others are in the long term. So we're looking forward to getting PRASA up and running and orderly going forward. Some of the things which you didn't raise, corruption has had a huge impact on the railway line in terms of irregular expenditure, which PRASA is working very hard to decrease. This morning we're at Scopa and they're giving a very positive report in terms of the approach of the board and how the board seeks to address some of matters of emphasis that have been identified by the Auditor General that the board need to address. I didn't get your point with regard to SAA. What do you want us to respond to?
One of the criticism that we are having, Minister, is that in South Africa, all the airlines can go where they want, as and when they want. For instance, you will have Emirates landing in Durban, landing in Cape Town. You've got British Airways and so on and so forth. So the question there is that, is there a coordination between yourselves as Department of Transport and the public enterprises, you as a regulator and obvious public enterprises as an operator of for instance, SAA, to make sure that, you see, for instance, you are getting a lot of cuts going to SAA. We want to look at those things which must be done to try and make SAA sustainable. We are arguing that money is just but one of the things that needs to be there, but there are a lot of other things in us trying to make SAA sustainable. So that's the drift.
Yeah, no, you are right, Chair. We are currently developing the aviation strategy and finalizing it. And we're in advance in relation to that. And that will include also the question of the agreement, service level agreement that we need to sign with different countries and airlines to basically review that. And that's what we're doing at the present moment between us and the DPE. So that strategy, we should complete that in the next couple of months, and that will speak to a whole range of issues. The main question is, how do we prioritize South Africa as interest in relation to other countries and other airlines participating in this space. And this is important in the light of what we are going to do beyond the current impasse that we are dealing with, which is about the SAA. Once we go through that, whatever that is going to come in terms of the new airline, it has got to speak to the interest of South Africa and how we as the Department of Transport regulate in that space in the best interest of our country, and so that we don't trample over South Africa's interest in the long term. So we are working on that as we speak, and we should go to cabinet with it probably before end of the year if it is possible, but I don't think so. I think it will be something that we should be in a position to process next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Honourable members, is there a burning question that would like to give to the Minister? I must know that it's not all the time that we're having the Minister in the committee. Shouldn't leave here and then you start coming with the questions which perhaps you would have had to clarify.
Anything?
Yes, Honourable Mlenzana.
Kaiso.
Okay, Honourable Kaiso.
Chair, just one little thing, particularly to the Minister. Comrade Minister, just to check. One, I appreciate that you have brought to us a brand new board, and we don't have then to overload them with serious questions as if we are doubting their capability. But one thing, what is the time lapse of you after we would have appropriated money to the department? What is now the time lapse of you transferring these funds to the entities like PRASA? When after we would have appropriated money to the department would then see actions taking place at PRASA? Thanks, Chairperson.
Aiso?
Yes, Chair. The question is not necessarily for the minister, but any response is welcome. I've heard the response around the issue of the Scientific Industrial Research Council. I don't think that the response was very clear, unless maybe I was understood to be referring to other research institute, but I'm referring to the Industrial Research Council. That they are saying that the department does not want to cooperate with them, but the response says we are working with the council. So it's differently, I mean, it's definitely the opposite answer to that confirmation by the Industrial Research Council. So I don't know what is being said about that, because it brings a different message now. Yes, that was my concern, Chair.
Okay, Matafa, anything? Joseph, anything?
I'm covered, Chair. Thank you very much.
Honorable Joseph?
Thank you, Chair. I'm covered. Thank you.
Okay, I think from my side, just to check, would you mind to share with us what reason did National Treasury give not to give a guarantee to AXA? Because I'm sure that it's one company where we know that mainly they're in the position that they're in is because of COVID impact. But just wanted to check that, because we also interact with the National Treasury so that we can also raise the question with them. Minister, the question of the road accident fund, we saw there are some court judgments. I'll tell you what our fear is. There may soon be the need for recapitalization and so on. Will the minister mind to share with the committee exactly what is the state there, and what are your thoughts, what is happening, and the implications of the court judgment and so on and so forth? I think, yeah, I'll leave it at that, Minister.
Dalian, you want to start?
Okay. Thank you, Minister. On the issue of the reason why Treasury, I think Treasury officials are also here, but the reasons there was mainly the performance in terms of the financial performance of the entity currently due to COVID. Hence, they were not given the guarantee. Hence, I've also indicated that the department yesterday had a meeting with National Treasury, where National Treasury requested further input and further information so that the discussion again can start on the AXA guarantee, because we have presented to them that there's a need for AXA, because even if AXA can go and issue the preference shares, it won't be able to sustain their financials looking at their economic performance. So there's a discussion going forward on that matter. I think that's all question.
Okay.
Chairperson, with regard to RAF, the court judgment has shown the serious collision of corruption in terms of that entity between workers inside, those who operate inside RAF as employees, and the so-called representatives of the people who are affected or the claimants, the legal companies and so on. And the judgment has been scathing in that regard. And it's a matter that ourselves and the board, we are dealing with. And the minister has also been directed by the court, particularly by the judge, to pay special attention in relation to the matters that the judge has actually raised. Now, corruption is across the medical experts, actuaries, RAF staff, attorneys. The courts have confirmed what we knew all along. We'll be meeting with the board to consider forensic, among others, forensic investigation. The judge has reported this matter also to the National Prosecuting Authority. But over and above that, the challenges that we're facing at RAF, we assist with those challenges. We thought that the legislation will help us to intervene to address issues of liability that we are faced in terms of RAF. That process has been reversed in a big way, and we are dealing with that to get the legislation back on track for the RAPS bill to come alive. So that's how we're going to intervene on in that front. If not, you know that it is a bigger crisis than what ESCOM could be to this country. So we have to basically address that and ensure that we bring solution to this. We will be updating cabinet on the state of RAF. We'll be meeting with the board to address some of the challenges that the court has actually brought to the fore for us to actually address. And we will be happy to come, Chair, and give you a detailed presentation on some of the interventions we are making at RAF together with the board and the management of RAF. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. As we gravitate towards the end of our meeting, from where we are seated, you must be rest assured about our support, because as you know that the transport is the backbone of the economy, backbone of the country. If things don't go right there, everything will fall apart. So we do have a particular interest from many angles. As I said at the beginning, Chairperson Prasa, again, you must be rest assured of our support. Would like to see the turnaround of that institution. That's the mode of transport where the multitudes of our people depend on. Those who are low earners and those who go to the cities to go and look for jobs. They can't afford the taxis and other modes of transport. Metro rail is their preferred mode of transport because it's subsidized, not because it's highly subsidized by government. And then I said, Minister, the part goes both for yourself and for PRASA. One is it's how the department and its agencies actualize the ERRP. Will be staying very close to this one, because as I said at the beginning, that we believe that our problems will only be solved once we get the economy back to a growth trajectory. It's only then that we'll be able to see increased revenues. It's only then that we'll be able to see decrease of debt to GDP ratio. It's only then that we'll be able to see more employment opportunities being created. So that's the reason why every department which comes here, we say, what is your plan? You'll remember the late President Mandela, in his interview just before the 1994 elections, in his debate with F.W. de Klerk, at the end of the day, what Mandela did was to present the plan of the African National Congress. And he said to de Klerk, looking at the other direction, and say, where is your plan? So we'd like to see the plan of your department and your agencies as far as the economic reconstruction and recovery plan is concerned. But we also said that here's your part goes, and even before the PRASA board come with the thing to us, would like the PRASA board to go to the minister and brief the ministers to say, here were the commitments of Gibela when they got to this contract. That's what they've achieved. That's what has happened. It was a very broad contract. It also involved the BEs and so on and so forth. So the localization, I think you PRASA, you have it, you have started it, and the minister was kind to share with us that there's a responsibility which the continent has given to South Africa. We have got that with that resource there. So that was the whole idea. So I'm saying to you, Chair, and your board, that even before, we'll definitely be calling you next year, where you extensively brief us as to what is happening around this program. Remember, that's one of the biggest programs that South Africa has ever embarked on, especially as far as the revitalization of passenger rail is concerned. With those few words, once more, thank you, Honourable Minister, for spending time with us and sharing the insight about what's happening in your department with the committee and the people of South Africa. Thank you, Deputy Minister, and thank you, Dylan, with your team. Acting Group CEO PRASA.
Sorry, Chair. Just on
Yes.
the issue that you raised about Gibela. I've been to Gibela, and there's a lot of work that has been done there. I don't want to be ahead, and I agree with your approach of the board of PRASA, because they need to get a handover of the work that has been done with Gibela in relation to the issues you are raising. The question of BE stakeholder, and also Gibela in relation to the agreement with government. How is it sustainable, and how do we continue to support that? That work has been covered. So it is for the board and the management to do their work, and we'll be happy to come back, because my department has been, I went there with the DG and the former administrator, met with the Gibela board, met with the French, met with the BE stakeholder, and there's been a lot of work that has been covered in that regard. So I will be very happy if you schedule that second engagement so that you can get the progress. Of course, that could be affected by the fact that in between there was the pandemic, but over and above that, there was a change of gear from one authority to the other. So that whole work must come to the fore now, properly processed by the board, and so that the committee can, and I also like it because the chair is well vested with the issues there, and given your participation in the previous portfolio also about the whole Gibela consortium and so on. But thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to highlight that point and to say that indeed that's a very important matter that must come back to the committee, and we'll be happy to come back to reinforce, intervene in addressing the situation there. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I think with those words from us, thank you so much, honorable members and everybody on the platform. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Long live the chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks,
Chair.
Chairperson. Thanks, Chairperson. Hey, Comrade Max.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, guys.
Comrade Mlenzan, bye-bye.
Yes, leadership.
Go show. Right.
Sure.